We have the U.S. Treasury issues its first ever sanctions on virtual currency mixer, and they target the DPRK cyber threats. Today, the U.S. Department of the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, the OFAC, sanctioned virtual currency mixer Blender.io, which is used by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea to support its malicious cyber activities and money laundering of stolen virtual currency. Remember, we read all of this through a lens, and look at those sweat stains. I got my jump rope in this morning, all right? All right, so remember, we're looking at this through the lens of crypto miners. We're looking at this through the lens of crypto in general. And what's important to understand, I've talked about before, is once you start getting these regulations in, the way the FUD's going to work is that they are going to try to basically demonize cryptocurrency from the perspective of it being utilized by either foreign actors that they find dangerous, Russia, Korea, China, etc., and or, of course, some sort of crime. This is basically how you influence the general public into being against something that you don't want around, right? And what did they not want around in this particular case are mixers in general, just to give you guys an idea so you understand. Take in cryptocurrency, mix it all up in the transactions, hence the name for the mixer, and make it hard to trace, and then send that currency back out to another wallet address that is not tied to the end user, etc. It can be used essentially for money laundering. The question is, though, and this goes all the way back to the cypherpunks in the early 90s when we're talking about encryption for email and so on, is should you as an individual have the right to privacy, or should you not? Now, a lot of the arguments that you'll hear from people is I'm not doing anything wrong, therefore it doesn't matter. But then we get into releases like from the WHO where they're tracing without the public knowledge. We have all the information from people like Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. Is there a point where there is governmental overreach on the invasion of your individual privacy or not? And do you care about that? For me personally, as I look at it through the lens of cryptocurrency and what it does to enable the individual for some sort of, sovereignty, essentially, I lean more towards the libertarian perspective is what some people would classify it as the individual should be able to maintain their right to privacy and that sort of thing. I understand, though, that at the same time, this is what the attack vectors will be to influence people to basically support these types of moves. On March 23rd, 2022, Lazarus Group, a DPRK state-sponsored cyber hacking group, carried out the largest virtual currency heist to date, worth almost $620 million from a blockchain project linked to the online game Axie Infinity. Blender was used in processing over $20.5 million in the illicit proceeds. Under the pressure of robust U.S. and UN sanctions, the DPRK has resorted to illicit activities, including cyber-enabled heists from cryptocurrency exchanges and financial institutions to generate revenue for its unlawful weapons of mass destruction. We're just going to bring it all the FUD in, okay? Let's just bring it all in. You guys need to be scared of weapons of mass destruction. We saw that with like 2001. I lived through that, right? You got to be scared of, bioweapons. You should be scared of pretty much everything, right? Pandemics, money laundering, all the evil in the world. We're going to bring that all in one thing. You need to be scared of that, be terrified of that, and don't worry, daddy government's going to take care of you. That's essentially what these end up coming down to. Does that mean I think that these problems don't exist? No, I don't think that. I'm not going to throw on huge tinfoil hats or anything. It just goes back to the fact of we have to be careful and start to try to figure out where to draw the line between government overreach and protection of the citizens. And I think that that's kind of where you end up in a weird spot. Quote, today, for the first time ever, Treasury is sanctioning a virtual currency mixer, end quote, said under said Undersecretary of the Treasury for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence, Brian E. Nelson. Quote, virtual currency mixers that assist illicit transactions pose a threat to U.S. national security interests. We are taking action against illicit financial activity by the DPRK and will not allow state-sponsored thievery and its money laundering enablers to go unanswered, end quote. Treasury is also updating the list of specially designated nationals and blocked persons, SDN lists, to identify additional virtual currency addresses used by the Lazarus Group to launder illicit proceeds. Treasury is committed to exposing components of the virtual currency ecosystem like Blender that are critical to the obfuscation of the trail of stolen proceeds from illicit cyber activity. The OFAC sanctioned the Lazarus Group on September 13, 2019, pursuant to the Executive Order 13,722, and identified it as an agency, instrumentally or controlled entity of the government of the DPRK, based on its relationship to the U.S. and UN-designated Reconnaissance General Bureau, the DPRK's premier intelligence organization, which is also involved in conventional arms trades. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of a story, too, that does date back to the 90s, and specifically email and encryption. One of the biggest attacks on email encryption was specifically due to the fact that in the early 2000s and so on, that ISIS was utilizing the initial encryption services that were created for email to power their own communications. This was used as an example to go ahead and basically have government control over these encryption technologies, and it's common for that to be done. What we found out later, and we could put on a little bit of a tinfoil hat here, is their ability to decipher the encryption while sold to the public as the ability to track and trace, of course, bad actors like ISIS, etc., did turn into, according to at least Snowden and Assange and some others through WikiLeaks and so on, being used on the general public, innocent people that did not participate in this thing. Now, you might be like, okay, well, I did nothing wrong. I was not with ISIS. Therefore, the encryption just protects me from other bad actors that are individuals. And it's okay if the governments and so on have control of it. But then you have to ask yourself, how many bad actors are in your own government as well that may utilize that? It just gets into murky water, in my opinion, and I read it through that lens, and then I expose that lens to you guys, and then I like to hear your thoughts and opinions in the live chat as well as in the comment section below. This is obviously going to have an impact on cryptocurrency from a pricing standpoint, regulation, etc., so it's also good to keep track of it. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Morning Show every Monday through Friday, 7:45 a.m. Pacific and 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. You can check out more clips here, or if you're interested in checking out the entire live show, you can check that out down here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday.